Greetings and welcome to TMH English News with me, Deletna Dawalko. Government of Tigray says Amnesty's International latest report is based on what is called a flawed methodology. Tigray Armed Forces anti-aircraft units have downed a helicopter gunship, and Ethiopia's detentions of Tigrayans snare U.S. and U.K. citizens. The government of Tigray says Amnesty's International latest report, alluding to allegations of rape in one Amhara locality, is based on a flawed methodology. It also added an only independent investigation can get to the bottom of this truth. As reported by the East African, according to a report released by Amnesty International yesterday, 16 women in Amhara's town of Nefas Maucha accused Tigrayan fighters of gang rape and physical assault. Responding to the allegations, the government of Tigray and Amnesty's International latest report is based on the disturbingly flawed methodology and based as it's on the remote video calling application as well as the self-serving testimonies from the regional and federal authorities. The statement said Amhara region and federal authorities could have provided security and guarantees for Amnesty International to send its investigations teams since they are in control of the site of alleged crime. For this reason, it is not clear why Amnesty International relied exclusively on the remote interviews to issue this report. The statement added that the government and the people of Tigray do not condone any acts of sexual violence and the brutalizations of non-combatants, regardless of the identity of the perpetrators. It stated only an independent investigation by an impartial international body can get to the bottom of all atrocities committed since the start of the genocidal war on the Tigray region. If our investigations discover that Tigrayan forces have in fact committed such crimes, the government of Tigray will bring the perpetrators to justice, the statement said, and the government of Tigray said it found that the latest allegations to be radically at odds with the common patrol coming out of the Amhara region, especially areas its armies have brought under their control of Tigray forces as disciplined force army coming out of the Amhara region, especially since those armies have brought under their control. Member of Tigray Armed Forces Central Command Getachew Reda also told CNN while the TPLF took the allegations very seriously, he believed they were basically groundless because Tigray Armed Forces do not indulge in the very practices of the enemy's force. Getachew Reda, member of the Tigray Armed Forces Central Command, said anti-aircraft units of the Tigray Armed Forces have today downed a helicopter gunship in the Mile front. Our anti-aircraft units in Mile front have downed an Mi-35 helicopter gunship, and this morning, Getachew Reda, member of Tigray Forces, wrote on his Twitter account today. OSHA reports 1.5 million children in Tigray need polio oral vaccinations and 790,000 children need measles vaccinations as well. According to OSHA's weekly humanitarian update, an estimated 888,000 children need polio oral vaccinations and 790 children need measles vaccinations. Essential medical equipment, supplies, vaccines, and medicines including chloria kits, malaria, and scabies medicines and reproductive health kits are among much-needed supplies. Diseases surveillance indicate high cases of malaria, dysentery, and scabies. There's also a crucial need for feeding to most patients as hospitals, including children. No humanitarian supplies have arrived into Tigray since October 18th, despite the fact that the hundreds of thousands of people are currently facing famine.
Sexual violence was used as a weapon of war in Tigray. But the abuse didn't end there. Ethiopian forces and allies destroyed and pillaged health centers. The Ethiopian government blocked access to medical aid, food, and basic services. Sexual violence survivors need critical health care and psychosocial support. Ethiopia should allow aid into Tigray.
Fears of more detentions soar in Addis Ababa as Ethiopian authorities ordered landlords to register the identities of their tenants with the police. As reported by AP and Channel 4, thousands of Tigrayans in Ethiopia capital have already been detained. The government says it's detaining Tigrayans suspected of supporting forces from the Tigray region who are nearing the capital at Addis Ababa after a year of war. Ethiopian authorities have rounded up a high-profile Tigrayans in a mass crackdown. From a bank CEO to priests and the United Nations staff, everyone was targeted in this crackdown. American and British citizens have also been swept up in Ethiopia's mass detention of ethnic Tigrayans under a new state of emergency on country's escalating war, according to the Associated Press. Meanwhile, men armed with sticks have been seen on some streets as volunteer groups seeking out Tigrayans to report to the police. According to the British Public Broadcast Service, Channel 4, volunteers all over the city are signing up for vigilante groups whom roam their local neighborhoods looking for ethnic Tigrayans. One member of the vigilante group, by the name of Solomon, told Channel 4 correspondent his group has handed 15 people over to the police in the last week. He doesn't know how or what happens to them once they have been taken away. The Channel 4 correspondent spoke to how Tigrayans in the capital are now afraid to go to public places.
But Tigrayans tell me that they no longer feel safe coming to places like this. They fear if they speak their language, members of the public will call the police. The authorities say they are only detaining Tigrayans when there is a firm connection to the TPLF. But human rights groups claim that Tigrayans are being ethnically profiled.
A Tigrayan day laborer who has seen 3 of his colleagues arrested recently just because of their ethnicity, he added innocent Tigrayans are being hunted down.
حصرت خلاص بدر حدهم وفت قروتنا فوتو تاريخ كلهم أشياء كبت كريستيان نبي كريستيان سواتي فوتو تاريخ وني ولهم احنا تقاري إثيوبيا جن الصوم إثيوبيا أيكونكم دول يصدلونا يقتلونا يأسرلونا أو نورتنا تقعتي بصحلو أو تقارو صعانا يبصحنا لهم بطعم احنا بطعم تسابعنا هنا احنا عرفتنا موسى فريحهم أو قضاء تربقهم علوم.
Many were afraid to speak to media in fear of reprisals. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken on Wednesday said he believes all sides see the danger of perpetuating the conflict in Ethiopia. Blinken warned that there's no military resolution to the differences between these parties. Secretary Blinken, during a conversation with Ethiopian Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Demeqa Mekonnen, expressed concern over the ongoing conflict in Ethiopia and emphasized the urgency of taking concrete steps for peace. The secretary reiterated his call for all parties to conflict, including the Ethiopian government, to urgently and seriously engage in negotiations on a cessation of hostilities without any preconditions. He underscored the need for immediate, unhindered humanitarian access to northern Ethiopia and support for all Ethiopian communities in need. Oryx reports Ethiopia has recently acquired Chinese TL-2 missiles, and the website specializing in military technology has earlier reported on the accusation of Chinese-made Wing-Lung unmanned combat aerial vehicles by Ethiopia and the subsequent sighting of the Ma'ala, the capital of Tigray region. As the Tigray war appears to be spiraling out of control for the Ethiopian government, the Ethiopian Air Force has now acquired weaponry for the 3 Wing-Lung it is purchased in mid-September of 2021. The first batch of the 50 TL-2 air-to-ground missiles arrived to Ethiopia on the 3rd of November. The way through which this information was leaked is perhaps indicative of the situation currently unfolding in Ethiopia, as the cargo manifest and packaging list was actually published online. The Ethiopian Airlines Boeing 777 cargo aircrafts carrying the missiles was quickly identified by the aircraft tracker Gerjan, whose work has been of paramount importance in documenting suspicious aircraft's movements to Warrenthor in Ethiopia. Ethiopia had earlier deployed its Wing-Lung as a reconnaissance, using them to identify targets over the city of Ma'ala, and as the Wing-Lung flies much lower than Western UAV design, this allowed residents of the city to film one of the drones on the 28th of October in 2021. Lacking aircraft that can deploy modern precision-guided munitions, the Ethiopian Air Force subsequently used Su-27 fighter aircrafts armed with bombs to engage these targets, leading to a number of civilian casualties without actually achieving the intended results. That wraps up our news for today. Thank you for tuning in. Goodbye.